Have you ever been worried about something and you can't stop thinking about it? You keep on worrying about it. And as a matter of fact, as time goes on, it feels worse and worse, and we think about it even more and more, and the problem seems to get bigger and bigger. And we even add stuff to it to make it even worse. Well, what about this? What about that? Maybe you're worried about something that hasn't happened yet, but you're worried about it coming up, and when it does, the consequences, and what's going to happen when it does. What's it going to cost me? Where am I going to be? What am I going to do? Maybe it's a problem that's happened in your life. You don't know how to solve it. Or maybe you're worried about something that has already happened, and you're worried about how you're going to continue to deal with it, or how, what somebody's going to say about you. Worry, 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 and we make our problems bigger and bigger. Well, don't worry about it. You're in good company, because most people are that way. So the question is, several questions. Why do most people make their problems bigger than they really are? Because we've all done that. I know I have. You're worried about something, and you go through all this stuff, all this stress, and in the end, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. As a matter of fact, most people have not figured out that the vast, vast majority of all the things that you ever worried about, and the problems that have happened in your life, you got through them, and they never really even came to fruition. And so, like I said, the question is why do so many people make their problems bigger than they are? Another question is, why is it that some people don't worry so much and they deal with their situations and circumstances and their problems quickly and get over it, and they seem to move on quicker? And do we really have the answers inside of all of us? And if we do, how do we use those resources to not only make the problem back down to where it should be and mitigate it, and be able to get through our problems and get through it and not worry so much? But how do we get those resources? How do we use those resources to make it better? We solve our problems better, we feel better, we get through things easier. And why is it that some people, like I said, some people don't worry so much? Well, listen, grab a pad and paper, because I think the answer is going to surprise you. I'm not only going to answer those questions, but I'm going to give you something that you can do that'll not only mitigate the worry and the time that you spend and make your problems smaller, but it's going to help you do it easier, quicker, faster, and make it automatic. And so in order to do this, I've got to go back to the basics. And the basics are how we function as human beings, what makes us do what we do, to answer those questions of why people do that. But before I do that, let me give you a perfect example. It's maybe about 3 weeks ago, I was on a flight. I was flying back from Florida back to California, where I live. The flight was super early in the morning. It was like 6:30 a.m. in the morning, leaving out of West Palm Beach, Florida. And there was a layover of about 45 minutes in Dallas, Texas, and then I would go fly from Dallas all the way to Los Angeles. Now, 6:30 in the morning, I'm there waiting, and all of a sudden, over the loudspeaker, the lady says, well, the flight that was supposed to come in that we were going to board has been delayed because of bad weather somewhere else. And so we're going to be about an hour, maybe an hour and a half late in boarding this flight. Now, as soon as she said that, I watched what was going on. Now, I'm not going to say I was happy about it, because I knew that I'm going to miss my flight from Dallas to Los Angeles, to California, because she said it's going to be an hour and a half. Here, that means you pull the string on this end, then it's going to move on that end as well. There's not going to be enough time. Well, it was interesting, because there was a full flight, and I watched the people that were there. Most people started freaking out. Oh, no, this is terrible, and they started yelling at the flight, I want to call them flight attendants, but the ladies behind the desk, and tell them, well, listen, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And they were trying to handle it as best they could. And then some people just got right on their phone and started dealing with it. Me, for example. I found another flight, and I called up some people, and I got another flight out of there, and it was that simple. But as I sat there, and it took me, honestly, maybe took me 15 minutes to do that. But during that time, I was listening to what other people were saying as well. And people were going to say, now I'm going to miss this flight, I'm going to miss my son's birthday, I'm going to do this and everything. And they were sitting there and they're worried about it, and they're waiting, and they're making it bigger and bigger. And as time went on, I was noticing, and you could feel the stress in the air, you could feel it around. And I noticed a couple people around, and then of course, I made the suggestions to some people. Well, listen, you can just, find another flight. Well, it's not supposed to be this way. These people are supposed to do this. They knew this, blah, blah, blah. And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And I thought to myself, why is it that I, and several other people as well, just chilled? and dealt with it. And they didn't make the problem bigger than it really was. They just said, here's the way that it was. And so back to the basics, it's always this. And when you understand this, you're going to understand why we do what we do and how we do it the way that we do and how we can make a change. It's always, if you've been around me at all, it's always our psychology. It's always think, feel, do, have. And what does that mean? Whatever we're thinking about in the moment, whatever we're focused on, and whatever we're saying, whatever pictures that we're making in our minds, and whatever we're saying to ourselves about whatever is going to cause a chemical storm, let's say a hormone storm inside of us, a mixture of endorphins and dopamines and adrenaline and cortisol and all those things. And that mixture, that cocktail of stuff that goes through our system is going to make us feel a certain way. Fearful or excited, doubtful, uncertain, or positive, hopeful, and optimistic. That's what's going to happen. And when we feel whatever is a result of whatever we're thinking about in that moment, whatever we're focusing on in that moment, is going to result in an activity or an action that we do based on those thoughts. And then whatever we do is going to produce a result. So those are the basics. And if you've been around me at all, I'm always going to go back to those basics. That's how we function as human beings. Whatever you think about is going to cause you to feel. And as you feel, you're going to do. And as you do, you're going to have. That's a no-brainer, no pun intended. The truth of the matter is, so you got to ask yourself, well, what makes us think what we do? And why, again, do so many people make their problems bigger than they really are? Well, here's a quick answer. Now, by the way, the real answer is what makes us do what we do right now in this moment is what we've learned. Meaning how we've been, I use the word conditioned to think what we think and to focus on what we think. If you're an optimistic person, then you have learned to be an optimistic person or maintain being an optimistic person. If you're a pessimistic person and a worried person, then you've learned to be that way. And I'm going to give you some examples of how you've learned in a minute. But the truth of the matter is everybody, every single one of us is born optimistic. You think about it. When you were inside your mama, were you going, I don't know if I'm going to be born right? I don't know. No, I mean, you're just a baby. But the very essence of you just said, you know what? Life is on the other side. It's time for me to go. I'm going to make this happen. Even when you were just a little baby sperm cell, you were optimistic and you knew that things were going to work out if you just kept going for it. So what happened in between that time that you came kicking and screaming into this world that makes most people worry so much, that makes most people make their problems bigger than they are? And by the way, that's the way that the brain works. That's the other thing that I want you to understand is something called human dynamics, the other basics. These two things. Number one, as we think, so we feel. As we feel, so we do. And as we do, so we have. But the other basic is something that I call human physics. Human physics means the more you do something, I don't care what it is, good or bad, the more we do it, the better at it we get. The more automatic it becomes. The more you tie your shoes, the better at you're going to get tying your shoes. Driving a car, riding a bicycle, reciting something, whatever it is. That's the dynamics. That's the basics of human beings. And so what has happened to all of us, and I'm going to give you one example here in a second, but I can never know the influences that have happened in your life that have taught you to be the way that you are right now, that have taught the mass of society to be the way that they are. I'm going to give you a suggestion here in a moment. But the truth of the matter is it's called conditioning. We have learned to be that way because outside of the two needs that you're born with and the one fear, everything else is learned. I shouldn't say everything, but most things. You see, human beings we all have instinct, yeah? I mean, I think about this. The gazelle, the baby gazelle, when it is born on the Serengeti plains, as soon as it comes out of its mama, it has to learn how to stand. It has to stand up as quickly as possible because it's got to be able to get out of the way of predators. Or it's got to learn how to hide. Birds fly south for the winter. You know, plants do this. It's instinct inside of us. Well, human beings have to learn our instinct. We're actually born earlier than we probably should be. It's a whole nother story. But the truth of the matter is that human beings, everything else we learn. And we learn through experience. We learn through impact. We learn through influence. And so because of that, that's the way we respond. The truth of the matter is, though, here's the example I want to give you. And I could talk for days and days about this. And it is kind of my pet peeve, if you will, and that is the biggest influencer. The biggest influence that has influenced most of the people, I'm going to say on the planet right now, is media, is television, is now the screens that are in front of us. Because they are what have taught most people to worry so much. They're fear-based. They truly are. Somebody asked me a couple days ago, Joseph, well, why are you so positive all the time? And I said, it's really simple, because I don't watch the news like you do. I don't pay attention to those things. I go another way. I look where I want to go. Now, by the way, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to watch, because I say I don't watch it the way that you do. But I do, like every 3 or 4 days, I'll tune into the news and, on any channel that I choose, and I'll watch it for like 15 minutes, and I'll get it that way. It's all fear-based. And I'm going to challenge you to do this as well. As a matter of fact, it's going to be one of your assignments. To check out that most of television, and when I say television now, it's television, it's your social media, all of those things are designed to keep you watching. It's fear-based. And all you gotta do is watch for 15 minutes, because after 15 minutes, it's gonna repeat itself. Now, I'm not gonna go deeply into it, but the truth of the matter is that we are taught and we are conditioned to be a certain way. We're conditioned to fear. We're conditioned to worry. We're conditioned, I had the privilege of several years ago working for actually a couple of different major television companies to study the effects of the conditioning, the programming, the things that they put out on people and how it makes people feel. And we don't even know that it's happening. Now, I'm not blaming everything on that, because again, you come with your own baggage. We all do. If you had a pessimistic parent that did that to you, and depends on the things that happen, here's where we are. And again, I'm going to show you what to do with it here in a moment. But the truth of the matter is, I want you to know that you learned it. You learned it. And again, on another video that I made before, I actually go in and I talk to you a little bit about how television commercials and game shows and situation comedies and what are those reality shows, and all of those things are designed to keep you fearful. And if you're trained to do that, then that's where you default. Why? Free human dynamics. Meaning, what that means is because it's happened so much, because you've had it coming into you all the time, you don't know it, that's our default. That's what we go to. And if we go to it or more often, then guess what? We're going to continue to do that way. We just have not learned to be optimistic. And remember, because it's learned, you get to learn something new. Human beings, we never stop learning. Remember earlier I said you only have 2 needs when you're born? The first need is the need to grow and learn. Actually, the first need, the first need is the need to avoid pain. That's a no-brainer. It's survival instinct. It's all that stuff, because pain could lead to death. Okay? The second need is the need to grow and learn. Think about it. Babies. They're putting stuff in their mouths. They're exploring things all the way, because instinctively inside they know that at some point in their lives, they're going to have to be self-sufficient. They're going to have to take care of themselves. So our Creator gave us the need to experience things and to figure things out and to find things and to go search for things. And that's why all babies explore the way they do. But what has happened through time is that actually has been taken away. It's atrophied from, as much as it used to be. Why? Because, and I see it all the time. What are we seeing our kids now? Scrolling through and watching television. It takes away that experience, which is a false experience, by the way. It's not a real experience. What they're seeing on television, what they're seeing on their screens, becomes their reality, and they don't have to experience it. And if it's laced with keeping them fearful, you don't have this toy, and Bobby's going to have this toy, and you don't have this, you don't have that, and that kind of thing, then their fear of loss and all those things. I hope this makes sense to you, but I want you to get it. So what do we do about it? What is the solution? How do we tap into our own resources so that we don't make things bigger? How do we tap into our own resources so that we automatically default to a place that makes us go, wait a minute, this is what this is, and let me deal with it? Because I'm sure you're going to agree with me, if you get there quicker, then guess what? You're going to get over the problem quicker. Well, the answer is, the solution to it, or the methodology behind it, is actually really quite simple. Remember what I said before about human dynamics. The more you do something, or human physics, the more you do something, the better and better at it you get. Well, the first step is to always be aware. Be aware of how you're dealing with the problem. In other words, when a problem comes up, what do? Be aware of yourself. Observe yourself. You got to snap yourself out of it. You go, wow, I'm worried. Most people don't do that. They stay on the worry. They don't go, oh, wow, look at me. I'm worried. Because as soon as you do that, as soon as your eyebrows go up, as soon as you go, interesting, then the brain does what it's supposed to do. It moves away from pain. It avoids pain. It's your biggest need that was going to be with you your entire life. And it goes, okay, That was painful, this worry was, but this feels good that at least I'm going, I'm worried. And I really want you to do it like that. As silly as my face looks when I do that, I want you to go, isn't that interesting? I'm worried. Just to catch yourself doing it. Because the brain is going to go, I just took myself from being worried to, at the very least, observing that I'm worried. And in that moment, all you got to do is stop, take a deep breath, and put a smile on your face. Now, as simple as this is, I know it might sound even counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, why should I be happy about this impending doom or this thing that's going to happen in my life? The truth of the matter is you're not being happy about that. You're being happy that you caught yourself being worried so you can do something about it. And when you smile, when you take a deep breath, you give yourself some oxygen. Your brain needs oxygen. The more oxygen your brain has, the more it can do what? Search for answers and figure stuff out and be optimistic. You see, that's what when people are stressed, we stop breathing so much. We breathe high in our chest. We stop giving our brain oxygen. And when the brain doesn't have oxygen, it conserves thoughts. And the thoughts the way it conserves thoughts is it just keeps thinking the same thoughts. It takes less energy to think of the same thoughts over and over again. And that's why we continue to worry. You should be going. So instead, when you stop, you take a deep breath, you give your body some oxygen. And when you smile, you've heard me talk about this before. As soon as you smile, it makes your brain release dopamine and endorphin, which is the feel-good juice. And your brain always is going to go, wow, that feels good. Let's do it again. I know this sounds, like I said, counterintuitive. It sounds crazy to do it. But here's what happens. Because of human dynamics, when you catch yourself worried and you snap yourself out and go, oh, I'm just worried, and you go, so all this is, and let me figure this problem out, then what will happen is your brain starts to look towards that. It starts to look forward to that. Because you've done it over and over again, it becomes your habit. You see, when I was in the airport, and thousands of other examples as well, when I was in the airport, I've conditioned myself that, even though, by the way, I wasn't happy that, I'm gonna miss this flight, and I wasn't happy that I gotta go through this and everything, but I went right to it. And as a matter of fact, because I was early in getting there, I was able to find a flight when other people weren't, because there were some vacancies on the other one, because I acted quicker. And so what I'm saying to you is I've conditioned myself to be that way, and how I've conditioned is do the same thing as you. I used to worry just as much as everybody else. Stuff gets to me, and when it does, I have an automatic default. I got a switch that goes, isn't that interesting? Look at me, I'm worried, silly me. Let me take a deep breath, put a smile on my face. I caught myself. Okay, what can I do about it? Because worry, and by the way, the more, I said this earlier, is that when we start worrying, we actually start adding more and more stuff. Yeah, and then what about this? I got a flat tire today. And then what about this? My wife yelled at me. And what about this? The kid's getting bad grades or whatever. We add so many things that we make it bigger and bigger. But when you stop it, you mitigate it. When you stop it and you catch yourself and you go, I'm just worried about this thing right here. And all worry is looking at the negative. Because that's the next question you ask is, what do I want? And what can I do about it? And if you can do something about it, then you do it right there in the moment. But then you start to tap into the resources. You see, when that happened to me, I went, okay, well, what resources do I have? I snapped myself out of it and I go, what resources do I have? I got my phone right here. Well, let me call the airline and find them what I can do. I called them and they helped me out. And so your assignment is super, 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 super simple. Snap out of it. Catch yourself. Now, by the way, don't wait. Don't wait until you're worried to do this. As a matter of fact, cause yourself to be worried. Cause yourself to be worried so that when you're worried, you snap yourself out of it. And all you got to do to cause yourself is to think about something. You can make a list of the things that you are worried about, the challenges, the problems that you're having in your life. Think about them, and then when you go, I caught myself. Take a deep breath, pat myself on the back. What can I do about it? And you move in that direction. You do that, and by the way, at the end of everything, you always got to pat yourself on the back or shake your ass or whatever and give yourself some sort of reward or some sort of praise because, why? Because you took yourself out of it. That's all we're doing is praising ourselves for taking ourselves out of worry or frustration or doubt or problems or whatever. Your solutions are not going to come while you're in it. Your solutions are going to come when you step outside of it. So super, super simple. Try this out, do it. Because what I promise you is just because it's just like building this muscle or anything else, the more that you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Super, super simple. Anytime I talk to you, there's a couple things that I always want to make sure is that I not only give you information, but I give you something that you can do. And as you do it, you're going to produce a result, because this is super, super simple as well. And you just keep on doing it, you get a result. And so lastly, I'm going to say this. First off, thank you. Thank you so much for your trust and your time and the energy that you spent just listening to me now. And there's two things that I want you to do. Number one, do it. Three things I want you to do. Number one is to do it. Just do the exercise and you get the results. And then let me know. And then the second thing is to share it. You don't have to give me credit for it. Just teach other people. I want you to spread this out, to tell other people. Because just like when I was in the airport, I didn't keep it to myself. I went to other people and I said, listen, I found a flight here. You might want to call there and do there. Okay? The third thing that I want you to do is I have a gift for you, and the gift is a free book. The book is called Dare to Be Magnificent. Well, I don't just outline the 5 steps to be magnificent, but I give you something that you can do so that you can instill it inside of yourself. It's absolutely free. It's my gift to you for you investing your time, your energy, and your effort and your trust into me. Just click on the link. It's somewhere around here. Click on the link, and we'll send you the free book. And the other thing is, if you like this, hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell so it can remind you, because we're having more and more videos coming up. And lastly, I always like to say this, that life is exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold, baby. So the trick to life is to boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. I will see you at the top. Don't worry.